On one hand, we've got so-called fitness experts overcomplicating biceps training and making it seem far more complex than it really is. On the other hand, however, more and more minimalist trainers have gone the other route, claiming that building bigger biceps is as simple as doing barbell curls and pull-ups and getting progressively stronger. The truth, however, lies somewhere in the middle. Sure, there are those genetically gifted individuals whose biceps would grow from nothing more than a few pull-ups, but they're the exception. You see, building your biceps doesn't have to be this elaborate process where you're performing a variety of different curls. Likewise, it's usually not as simple as doing pull-ups every day. If you want to build bigger biceps, there are two things that have to happen. For starters, you've got to understand the anatomy and physiology of the biceps. Second, once you've got your 2 to 3 key movements, focus on progression. If you're performing the right exercises, using proper form, and gradually increasing the load, your arms will grow. In this video, I want to briefly go over the basic anatomy of the biceps and their functions. Then I want to go over what are, in my opinion, the only 3 biceps exercises you need for building bigger arms. The anatomy of the biceps. The biceps are a muscle group located in the upper arm and, as the name suggests, divided into 2 heads. A short head located on the inside of the arm closer to the body, and a long head which sits on the outside of the arm further away from the body. Both heads originate on the scapula and both heads converge to insert into the forearm. Now that you know what muscles you're looking to target, what exactly do they do? The main function of the biceps is elbow flexion, essentially bringing your lower arm towards your shoulder. As both heads attach to the scapula, there's also an element of shoulder flexion, particularly from the long head of the biceps. The short head also aids in supination, or rotation of the forearm and hand to turn your palm upward. This functional anatomy is vital when it comes to knowing how to train your biceps effectively. Now that you understand the anatomy and biomechanics, I'm going to give you the only 3 biceps exercises you need for bigger arms. Exercise number 1, heavy pull. Although the biceps aren't the primary focus of heavy pulling exercises, anytime you're pulling a weight against gravity, you're involving the biceps muscles to some degree. Let's take a chin-up for example. In order to pull yourself up, it will require elbow flexion, the main function of the biceps. And because the bigger, more dominant muscles of the back are involved in the movement, this allows you to load the biceps in a way that curling exercises aren't able to. Let's say on day 1, you do 3 sets of 6 reps with 10 pounds dangling from a belt on weighted chin-ups. According to the formula for volume, sets times reps times weight, that's 180 pounds of volume, not including your own body weight. If you're 170 pounds, that becomes a total workload of 3,240 pounds. Over the next 3 months, you add another 15 pounds, so you can now do 3 sets of 6 reps with 25 pounds. That's 3,510 pounds of volume for the pull-up per workout. And although you're targeting other muscles in the process, this 270-pound increase in volume will have placed more cumulative tension on the biceps. Simply put, the stronger you get on heavy pulling exercises, the more volume and thus more tension is placed on the biceps over time. The next question becomes, which heavy pulling exercises are best for targeting the biceps? The answer is simple. The closer you are to a fully supinated grip, the greater the biceps activation. In other words, focus on pulling movements that require a neutral or underhand grip. For example, rather than performing a traditional overhand barbell row, incorporate an underhand variation instead. And if you're going to include pull-ups in your training, consider substituting those for chin-ups and so on. Exercise number 2, barbell curl. Plain and simple, the barbell curl is one of the main biceps exercises because it places a large amount of tension on your biceps, but it also allows you to more easily micro-load the weight that you lift. For example, if you were using dumbbells, you would probably add 5 pounds per side at a time. Imagine going from 20 pounds to 25 pounds. That's a whopping 25% increase in weight per arm. If it isn't obvious, it's going to be really difficult to lift more weight over time with dumbbells. If you use a barbell, you can go from 60 to 65 pounds by adding 2.5 pound plates to each side. This 8% increase in weight is much more manageable over the long term. Now that you understand why I recommend the barbell curl as a staple in your biceps training, here are 3 simple tweaks you can implement to make it even more effective. Number 1, fix your wrist position. Traditional barbell curls are typically fine, but some may struggle to supinate their forearms completely under the bar. If you feel forearm or wrist pain when performing traditional barbell curls, I recommend using an easy bar instead, as this bar makes it much easier to get a comfortable wrist position. Number 2, include some shoulder flexion. You've probably heard that the elbows should stay locked at your sides when curling, and that advice comes from a good place. In many cases, this is recommended as a way to prevent guys from adding more weight than they can handle and using momentum to complete the exercise. However, the biceps aren't just responsible for elbow flexion, they're also involved in flexion of the shoulder. In other words, your biceps are actually fully contracted when you lift your arms out in front of you. That's why you must lift under control, but should intentionally add some shoulder flexion at the end of the movement to further shorten the biceps and increase tension. And number 3, include drop sets. Drop sets involve doing a set and then immediately stripping a fraction of the weight off and squeezing out more reps. This increases something called metabolic stress. In fact, according to research, metabolic stress is a major contributor to muscle growth. Metabolic stress is basically the pump you get while working out that involves cellular swelling, hypoxia, and other chemical processes that help muscles grow. Now, I'm not saying you should include drop sets anytime you perform barbell curls. However, it can be used as a great tool to increase volume, especially when adding more weight is no longer a viable option. Exercise number 3. Neutral grip curl. A neutral grip or hammer curl may be the simplest form of curling, but it has some additional benefits that most guys don't even realize. You already know the biceps are comprised of 2 heads, the long head and the short head, but there's also a powerful muscle underneath the biceps called the brachialis. The brachialis is the strongest of all elbow flexors, and when you build your brachialis, it will push the biceps upwards to increase the overall size and the height of the biceps peak. So although the brachialis is technically not part of the biceps muscle, you certainly don't want to ignore it. Supinated curls like barbell curls or traditional dumbbell curls cause the biceps tendon to wind around the arm bone called the radius. But when you pronate your wrist a little like you do with hammer curls, the biceps tendon unwinds, placing more tension on the brachialis. It's now common practice to use the hammer curl as a staple brachialis builder, but this neutral curl variation also increases activation of a forearm muscle called the brachioradialis. So not only is it helping you achieve bigger and thicker biceps, but it's also going to help you build your forearms. Just remember that exercise selection won't make a huge difference if you don't program correctly. Since the biceps are a small muscle that seem to recover quite fast and also require adequate volume to actually grow, here are a few recommendations. Number 1, train them frequently. Hit the biceps directly at least 2 times per week. If you distribute your volume correctly, you could even work your way up to hitting 4 days per week as long as you program carefully. Number 2, increase your volume. You likely need to start with 3 to 4 sets of direct biceps work 2 times per week. Eventually, your biceps will demand more total volume to grow. At this point, you can add more sets within a workout or more days in which you hit the biceps directly. And number 3, train them hard with proper form. I'm not an advocate of training to failure, as it could impede your recovery and have a negative impact on how much work you can perform. But if you leave a ton of reps in the tank, you won't be maximizing growth in your biceps. On the flip side, if you push so hard that your form breaks down, you'll tire yourself out without additional benefit. This is why I recommend you keep the form strict, but always train close to failure. There are dozens of biceps exercises you can do, but the 3 exercises outlined in this video, when combined into a proper training program, will give you the biggest bang for your buck. Did you find this video helpful? If so, click the like button below, as it'll truly help out the channel. Are you looking for a complete, done-for-you training and nutrition guide guaranteed to add slabs of muscle to your frame in the next 90 days? Then claim your free copy of my book, Bulk Up Fast. The book has already been paid for. All you have to do is cover the small shipping fee. Just click the link in the description, tell me where to ship it, and I'll send it to you anywhere in the world. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe for more videos, and don't forget to turn on post notifications so you don't miss the next one. Peace.